I am 28 years old, and I am a natural blonde. My husband Mark is 30. We had been married for 3 years. 3 years of feeling like I was constantly being judged by his mother, Eleanor. She never said anything directly cruel. It was always small things. A comment about my cooking. A look when I wore a certain dress. A question about my job that made it sound unimportant. I tried to ignore it. I wanted to keep the peace. I loved Mark, and she was his mother. So I smiled and nodded and pretended her words did not sting. Thanksgiving was at her house this year. It always was. Her house was large and perfect, just like her. The table was set with fancy plates and glasses. The turkey was golden brown. Everything looked like a picture from a magazine. Mark's father, Robert, was there. His Aunt Linda was there, too. A few other cousins sat around the table. The air was filled with the smell of roasted turkey and cinnamon. I had brought a pumpkin pie. I spent all morning making it from scratch. Eleanor had placed it on the dessert table without a word. We were all eating. The conversation was light. Robert was talking about football. Linda was asking the cousins about school. I was sitting next to Mark. He was holding my hand under the table. It felt a little tight. I looked at him. He was smiling at his mother as she told a story. I tried to smile too. I wanted to feel like I belonged in this family. I wanted to feel like his wife, not just a guest he had brought along. Then Eleanor looked at me. Her smile was thin. It did not reach her eyes. She had been talking about Mark's childhood. She pointed her fork at a picture on the wall. It was a photo of Mark in high school. He had his arm around a girl. The girl had long, dark brown hair. She was very pretty. I knew who she was. Her name was Chloe. She was his high school girlfriend. They had dated for years. Mark always did have a type, Eleanor said. She was still looking at me. The whole table went quiet. Everyone was watching. I felt my face get hot. I did not know what to say. I just sat there holding my fork. She turned her gaze from me to the rest of the table, as if she was sharing a fun little secret with everyone. He just loved brunettes, she continued. He just sat there. I turned to look at him, my eyes pleading with him to help me. He met my gaze for a second, and then he smirked. It was not a big smile. It was a tiny little lift at the corner of his mouth. It was a smirk that said, "She's right." It was a smirk that told me he agreed with his mother. In that one small moment, I felt a crack form in my heart. He was on her side, not mine. The silence at the table was heavy. Aunt Linda cleared her throat. She tried to change the subject. "This turkey is wonderful, Eleanor," she said. "You must give me the recipe." Eleanor beamed, her moment of triumph complete. "Of course, dear," she said. The conversation started again. People began to talk and laugh as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Something important had broken. Mark let go of my hand. He picked up his wine glass. He took a long drink. He did not look at me. I felt like I was invisible. Or worse, I felt like I was the butt of a joke that everyone else understood. I put my fork down. I was not hungry anymore. The delicious food tasted like ash in my mouth. I kept replaying the moment in my head. The comment, the smirk, the silence. It was a perfect, calculated attack, and my own husband had been a willing spectator. He had not just watched, he had enjoyed it. I excused myself from the table. I said I needed to get some air. No one seemed to notice. Mark did not even look up. I walked to the back door and stepped out onto the cold porch. The November air was sharp. It felt good on my hot cheeks. I wrapped my arms around myself and tried to breathe. I did not want to cry. I would not give her the satisfaction. This was not just about my hair color. I knew that. It was about me. She did not think I was good enough for her son. She had always preferred Chloe. I had heard stories about her. The perfect Chloe, the smart Chloe, the brunette Chloe. Mark had told me they broke up because they were going to different colleges. He said it was a mutual decision. He said he was over her. Now I wondered, was he really over her? Did he look at me and wish I had dark hair? Concerned, but it was too late. "I'm fine," I said. My voice was cold. I did not look at him. "You were gone for a while," he said. "I needed some air," I replied. He tried to put his arm around me. I stepped away. "Don't," I said. He frowned. "What's wrong, Laura?" he asked. "Are you mad about what my mom said?" It was just a joke. A joke. That is what he called it. His mother's public humiliation of me was a joke. His own betrayal was a joke. I felt a surge of anger so strong it almost made me dizzy. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to ask him how he could sit there and smirk while his mother insulted his wife. But I did not. The other family members were watching us. Eleanor was watching us, a small, satisfied smile on her face. I would not give them a show. "I'm tired," I said. "I want to go home." "We can't leave yet," he said, his voice a harsh whisper. "They're about to serve dessert." "You can stay," I said. "I am leaving." I walked to the front closet to get my coat. I did not care if I had to call a taxi. I was not staying in that house for one more minute. Mark followed me. He grabbed my arm. "Laura, stop," he said. "You're overreacting." "Let go of my arm, Mark," I said. My voice was quiet but firm. He looked surprised. I was never firm with him. I was always accommodating. I was always the one to smooth things over. Not anymore. He let go. I put on my coat. I grabbed my purse. I did not say goodbye to anyone. I just walked out the front door and closed it quietly behind me. I walked down the long driveway to my car. My hands were shaking. I got in and locked the doors. I sat there in the dark, my heart pounding in my chest. I had just walked out on Thanksgiving dinner. I had just stood up to my husband. It was a small step, but it felt huge. It was the beginning of something. I did not know what yet, but I knew I could not go back to the way things were. Mark came home a few hours later. I was sitting on the couch in the dark. I had not turned on any lights. I had just been sitting there, thinking. He flipped on the switch But you smirked. You looked happy. He ran a hand through his hair. He started pacing the room. "You're making a big deal out of nothing, Laura. It was a stupid comment about hair color. Who cares?" "I care," I said, my voice rising. "I care that my husband sat there and let his mother insult me. I care that you looked like you enjoyed it. It wasn't about hair, Mark. It was about her telling a whole table of people that I'm not the one you should be with. And you agreed." "That's ridiculous," he said. "I married you, didn't I?" His words were meant to be comforting, but they felt like another slap. He married me, as if that was a favor he had done for me, as if that should be enough to make me forget everything else. "Yes, you did," I said quietly, "and I'm starting to wonder why." He stopped pacing. He stared at me. "What are you saying?" he asked. "I'm saying that I feel like I don't know you," I said. "I feel like you and your mother have a whole secret world that I'm not a part of, and in that world I'm not good enough." "You're being paranoid," he said. He tried to come closer, to hug me. I stood up and moved away. "No, I'm not," I said. "I'm just finally seeing things clearly." I went into our bedroom and closed the door. I locked it. I heard him knock a few times. I heard him call my name. I ignored him. I needed to be alone. I needed to think about what I was going to do next. The smirk had opened a door I could not close, and I had a feeling that if I looked through it, I was not going to like what I found. The next few days were tense. We barely spoke. We moved around each other in our small apartment like strangers. He tried to act like everything was normal. He would ask about my day. He would try to make jokes. But I could not pretend. The image of his face at that dinner table was burned into my mind. The smirk was a wall between us. I knew I could not let it go. He called it a joke, but it felt like a betrayal. It was small, maybe, but it felt like it was part of something bigger, a pattern of disrespect I had been ignoring for too long. I needed to know if I was right. I needed to know if I was being paranoid like he said, or if my lifeline I was not crazy. Someone else saw it too. What do I do, Sarah? I asked. You need to find out what's really going on, she said. You said you feel like there's a secret world. Well, you need to find a way into it. You need proof, because right now it's your word against his, and he will deny everything. She was right. I needed proof, but where would I find it? I thought about his phone, his computer. It felt wrong to snoop. It felt like a violation of his privacy. But he had already violated my trust. He had sided with his mother against me. He had made me feel small and worthless. My desire for the truth was stronger than my guilt about how I might find it. That night, I waited until he was asleep. His breathing was deep and even. I slipped out of bed. My heart was pounding. I felt like a thief in my own home. I went into the living room where his laptop was sitting on the coffee table. He always left it open. He never had anything to hide. Or so I thought. I sat on the floor in front of it. The screen was dark. I touched the trackpad and it lit up. His desktop was neat and organized. Folders for work, a folder for finances, a folder for photos. My hands were shaking so much I could barely control the cursor. I clicked on the Photos folder. Inside there were more folders. Vacation 2022, Family Christmas, Our Wedding. My stomach clenched. I saw our happy, smiling faces. It felt like a lie. I kept scrolling, and then I saw it, a folder at the very bottom. It was named Archive. That was a strange name. It was vague. I felt a cold dread creep up my spine. I clicked on it. The folder was password protected. Of course it was. My heart sank. This was it. This was the secret world, and I was locked out. I tried a few passwords. His birthday, my birthday, our anniversary, the name of his childhood dog. Nothing worked. I felt a wave of frustration and despair wash over me. I was so close. I sat back and tried to think. What would be important enough to him to use as a password, but something I would— Active collection. I felt sick. I scrolled through the photos, each one a stab to my heart. He had kept all of this. He had hidden it from me. He was living a secret life, a life where she was still important to him. Important enough to save and protect with a password. Her name was the key. Her name opened the door to his secret world. And now I was inside. But the pictures were not the worst part. At the bottom of the folder, there was a document. It was a text document. It was named Thoughts. I clicked on it. It was a journal. His journal. He had been writing in it for years. The entries were dated. I scrolled to the most recent ones. They were from the last few months. I began to read. His words were a confession. He wrote about me. He wrote about his mother. And he wrote about Chloe. He wrote that he missed her. He wrote that he sometimes wondered if he had made a mistake. He wrote that his mother was right, that he was always happier with her. He wrote about our fights, our disagreements. He twisted everything to make me look bad. He described me as needy, insecure, and dramatic. He said my blonde hair was a bit much sometimes, and that he preferred Chloe's natural, classic beauty. Then I found the entry from the night of Thanksgiving. He wrote about his mother's comment. He wrote, "Mom said what I've been thinking for years." Laura was so upset. She doesn't understand. It's not that I don't love her, it's just, Chloe was different. It was easier, simpler. I saw a picture of Chloe the other day. She looks amazing. I wonder if she's happy. And then, the final line that shattered what was left of my heart. I looked at Laura's face when Mom made the comment, and I almost felt bad. But then I thought of Chloe, and I couldn't help but smile. Mom knows me better than anyone. He had not smirked. He had smiled. He had smiled because his mother's cruelty towards me reminded him of the woman he still wanted. I closed the laptop. I could not read anymore. The room was spinning. I felt like I could not breathe. This was not paranoia. This was real. It was worse than I could have ever imagined. He was not just passively agreeing with his mother. He else was growing. I was not going to be the victim in his story. I was not going to be the needy, dramatic wife he wrote about in his secret journal. I was going to be the one who finished this story, and it was not going to have a happy ending for him or his mother. The next morning, I acted like nothing had happened. It was the hardest thing I had ever had to do. I made coffee. I asked him if he had slept well. He said he had. He seemed relieved that I was talking to him again. He thought the fight was over. He thought he had won. He had no idea that I was just getting started. I was thinking, I said, my voice carefully neutral. Maybe I overreacted about Thanksgiving. Your mom was just being your mom. He smiled, a wide, genuine smile. I'm so glad to hear you say that, he said. He came over and hugged me. I stood stiffly in his arms. It felt like being hugged by a stranger. I told you it was nothing. I love you, Laura. I love you too, I lied. The words tasted like poison. I needed a plan. I could not just confront him. He would deny it. He would delete the folder. He would say I misunderstood his journal. He would twist it all around and make me the bad guy for snooping. I needed more than just the folder. I needed something he could not deny. Something public. Something that would expose him and his mother for who they really were. I started small. I began to pay more attention. I listened to his phone calls. I watched how he texted. He was careful. He never left his phone unlocked. He always angled the screen away from me. He had been doing this for a long time. He was good at hiding things. I decided to talk to him about Chloe. I had to be casual about it. I waited for the right moment. We were watching a movie one night. The actress in the movie had dark brown hair. She kind of looks like Chloe, doesn't she? I said. I tried to make it sound like an innocent observation. Mark tensed. I felt it. He was sitting next to me on the couch and his whole body went rigid for a second. I guess, he said. His eyes were fixed on the screen. I don't really remember what she looks like. Another lie. He had hundreds of pictures of her. He knew exactly what she looked like. Nights later. My hands did not shake this time. I was focused. I typed in her name. The folder opened. I did not look at the pictures again. I went straight for the journal. I needed to see if there were any new entries. There was one, from the day before. Laura brought up Chloe last night, out of nowhere. It freaked me out. I need to be more careful. I don't want her to find out I've been talking to her. She would lose her mind. She's already so insecure. My blood ran cold. He had been talking to her. He was actively communicating with his ex-girlfriend behind my back, and he was calling me insecure for suspecting it. The audacity of it was breathtaking. He was cheating. Maybe not physically, but he was having an emotional affair, and he was blaming me for it. The journal entry did not say how he was talking to her. Was it text? Email? Social media? I had to find out. I started digging. I went through his browser history. He was good. He had cleared it. I checked his social media accounts. He was not friends with her on anything, at least not on the accounts I knew about. I felt stuck. I had proof that he was thinking about her and lying to me, but I did not have proof of their communication. Without that, he could still deny it. He could say he was just writing down fantasies. He could say the journal was a way to get his feelings out so he would not act on them. He was a good liar. He would have a story for everything. I decided to change my tactics. If I could not find the proof on his devices, maybe I could get it from someone else, his mother, Eleanor. She was the one who started all of this. She was the one who fueled his obsession with Chloe. I had a feeling she was more involved than she let on. The journal entry from Thanksgiving proved it. Mom knows me better than anyone. They were allies. They were a team. and I was the enemy. I had to find a way to talk to her, but it had to be subtle. I could not let her know I was suspicious. I decided to use the upcoming holidays as an excuse. Christmas was just a few weeks away. I called her. "Hi, Eleanor," I said, my voice bright and cheerful. I was just starting to think about Christmas gifts, and I was wondering if the gift was flashy, and that he preferred something from his past, something from his time with Chloe. "Oh, that's a great idea," I said. "Do you remember the brand?" "I'm not sure, dear," she said, "but I might have a picture of it somewhere. Let me look. Chloe bought it for him. She always had such wonderful taste." There it was again. Chloe. She could not resist bringing her up. She was testing me. She was enjoying this. She thought I was a fool. "Oh, really?" I said, my voice full of fake innocence. "That's so sweet. They must have been very close." "They were soulmates," Eleanor said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Everyone thought they would get married. It was such a shame when they broke up. His father and I were just heartbroken. We adored her. She was like a daughter to us, unlike you." She did not have to say the words. They were hanging in the air between us. "Well, it all worked out for the best, didn't it?" I said, my own voice now dripping with sweetness. "He has me now." There was a pause on the other end of the line. I had surprised her. She was not used to me pushing back, even a little. "Yes, well," she said finally, "of course. I'll look for that picture of the watch and send it to you." "Thank you so much, Eleanor," I said. "You've been a huge help." I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking again, but this time it was with adrenaline, not fear. She was so smug, so confident. She had no idea who she was dealing with. She thought she was playing a game with a naive little girl. She was about to find out how wrong she was. A few hours later, a text came through from Eleanor. It was a picture, an old, slightly blurry photo of Mark and Chloe. They were sitting on a bench, smiling at the camera. He was wearing the watch. But that was not what caught my eye. It was Chloe. She was wearing a necklace, a delicate silver chain with a small, unique pendant. It was a locket. I stared at the picture. I knew that locket. I had seen it before, but where? I closed my eyes and tried to think. It was recent. I had seen it very recently. And then it hit here, in his desk, where he could see it every day. My fingers fumbled with the clasp. It was tiny and stiff. I finally got it open. Inside, there were two small pictures. On one side was a photo of a much younger Mark. On the other side was a photo of Chloe. They were their prom pictures. I snapped the locket shut. This was not just a memory. This was a current part of his life. He was keeping her locket in his desk. He was looking at her picture. This was more than an emotional affair. This was an obsession. And his mother was feeding it. She had sent me that picture on purpose. She wanted me to see Chloe. She wanted me to feel insecure. She wanted to remind me that I could never compete with Mark's past. But she had made a mistake. She had given me a clue. The locket was a piece of physical evidence. It was something I could hold in my hand. It was real. The journal and the pictures were digital. He could delete them. He could deny them. But the locket was different. He could not say I had imagined it. He could not say I had misunderstood it. I put the locket in my pocket. I would not put it back in the box. This was mine now. This was my proof. It was the first piece of my arsenal. I knew I needed more. I needed to connect the locket to their current communication. I needed to find the messages he was so careful to hide. I thought about what Sarah had said. Find a way into his world. His world was his laptop and his phone. I had been trying to get in through the front door by guessing passwords and looking through his history. I needed to find a back door. I started doing some research online. I looked up ways to recover deleted messages, ways to track activity on a computer. I felt like a spy. I was learning about keyloggers and recovery software. It was a dark and complicated world, but I was determined. I was not going to let him get away with this. I found a piece of software that seemed promising. It was a program that could be installed on a computer and would secretly record every keystroke. It would also take screenshots every few minutes. It was invisible. He would never know it was there. It felt extreme. It felt like a massive invasion of his privacy. But what choice did I have? He had built a fortress of lies around himself. This was a strange mix of guilt and empowerment. I had crossed a line. There was no going back now. But I also felt a sense of control for the first time in a long time. I was no longer the one in the dark. I was the one holding the flashlight. Now all I had to do was wait. I had to wait for him to use the laptop. I had to wait for him to talk to her. I had to be patient. It was the hardest part. Every time he opened his computer, my heart would start to race. I had to act normal. I had to sit there on the couch next to him, pretending to watch TV, while secretly I was wondering what he was typing. The first few days were disappointing. He mostly used it for work. I saw emails to his boss. I saw spreadsheets and reports. It was boring. I started to think maybe I had been wrong. Maybe the journal entry was a one-time thing. Maybe he was not talking to her regularly. But then, on the third night, I hit the jackpot. I was in the kitchen making dinner. He was in the living room on his laptop. I had my phone open on the counter, logged into the monitoring software. I was watching the screen captures as they came in. He was on a social media site, not one of the big ones. It was a smaller, more private one that I had never heard of. It looked like it was designed for sharing photos among a close group of friends. He had a profile under a fake name, and he was friends with someone named C. Davis. Chloe's last name was Davis. My hands started to shake. I watched as he clicked on her profile. Her picture popped up. It was her. She looked older, but it was definitely her. Then he started typing. A chat window was open. I could see their conversation history. They had been talking for months, almost every day. They talked about everything, their jobs, their friends, their families. And they talked about me. I read the messages, my stomach churning. Chloe would ask, "How are things with Laura?" And Mark would write back, "The same. She's so sensitive. I have to walk on eggshells all the time." He told her about the Thanksgiving fight. He wrote, "You would have thought my mom committed a crime. All she did was say I liked brunettes," which is true. Laura turned it into a whole drama. Chloe, a few hours away, but she was coming to town for Christmas. She was going to be staying with her parents. "My mom wants to see you," Mark wrote. "She was thinking of inviting you for Christmas dinner, as a surprise." My heart stopped. This was their plan. This was what his journal entry was about. They were going to invite his ex-girlfriend to Christmas dinner, and they were going to surprise me with her. They were going to put me in a room with the woman he was in love with and expect me to smile and be polite. It was a setup. It was a cruel, calculated plan to humiliate me. Chloe's reply was sickening. "Oh, that would be so fun. I would love to see Eleanor and Robert. But what about Laura? Won't that be awkward?" "Don't worry about Laura," Mark wrote back. "I'll handle her. It's time she learned that you're a part of my past, and she needs to be mature about it." Mature about it. He was going to ambush me with his mistress and then call me immature if I got upset. The level of his arrogance was staggering. He was not just cheating on me, he was actively trying to hurt me. He was conspiring with his mother and his ex-girlfriend to create the most uncomfortable and humiliating situation possible. I had everything I needed. I had the journal, I had the locket, and now I had the messages. Undeniable proof of his affair and their plan. I took screenshots of everything. I saved them to a secure cloud drive. I emailed them to myself. I made sure I had multiple copies. This was my ammunition, and I was going to use it. My anger was cold and sharp. The hurt was still there, but it was turning into something else. A fierce, protective rage. They had underestimated me. They thought I was weak. They thought I was insecure and dramatic. They were about to find out who I really was. I did not confront him. Not yet. The time was not right. They were planning a surprise for Christmas. I decided I would plan a surprise of my own. Their little drama was going to have a different star than they expected, and the final act was going to be spectacular. The next 2 weeks were a strange performance. I was the perfect wife. I was cheerful and affectionate. I stopped questioning him. I stopped being distant. I acted like the Thanksgiving fight was ancient history. Mark was so relieved. He thought he had fixed it. Showed him the screenshots of the messages. He was a kind older man with sympathetic eyes. He looked at the evidence and nodded slowly. "This is what we call marital misconduct," he said. "In this state, it can have a significant impact on the divorce settlement. You've done a very good job of documenting everything." He gave me advice. He told me what to do. He told me to start separating my finances. He told me to make copies of all our financial records. He told me to be prepared. I followed his instructions to the letter. I opened a new bank account. I moved half of our joint savings into it. It was my money, from my job. I had a right to it. I gathered all the bank statements, the mortgage documents, the car titles. I made a folder with everything. I was preparing for war. I also reached out to Mark's aunt, Linda. She had always been kind to me. She was the one who tried to change the subject at Thanksgiving. I felt like she was a decent person. I needed an ally in the family. Or at least, I needed to know where she stood. I invited her for coffee. We met at a small cafe near her house. She seemed surprised but happy to see me. "It's so good to see you, Laura," she said. "How are you?" I was worried after Thanksgiving. That was uncomfortable. It was, I agreed. "That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about." I took a deep breath. I did not show her the messages. It was not time for that yet. I just wanted to plant a seed of doubt. "Linda," I said, my voice quiet, "I'm worried about Mark. He seems distant lately. And Eleanor? She seems determined to push me away." Linda sighed. She stirred her coffee. "Eleanor can be difficult," she said carefully. "She's very protective of Mark. And she had a very specific idea of who he should end up with." "Chloe," I said. It was not a question. Linda looked surprised that I had said the name. She nodded. "Yes, Chloe. They were very close. Eleanor saw her as the daughter she never had. She's never really gotten over the breakup. Has she ever tried to interfere?" I asked. Linda hesitated. She looked down at her cup. "Eleanor likes to meddle," she said finally. "She thinks she knows what's best for everyone. I've told her many times to stay out of Ever need to talk? I'm here." "Thank you, Linda," I said. "That means a lot to me." I left the cafe feeling stronger. I had a lawyer. I had a friend. And I had a potential ally in the family. The pieces were all falling into place. Christmas Eve arrived. We were going to Eleanor and Robert's house for dinner. The whole family would be there. Linda, the cousins, everyone. This was it. This was the night. I had my plan ready. I got dressed carefully. I chose a simple, elegant red dress. I did my hair and makeup. I wanted to look beautiful. I wanted to look confident. I wanted to look like a woman who was not about to have her world fall apart. I was not that woman anymore. I was the woman who was about to take control of her own story. Mark looked at me when I was ready. "You look amazing," he said. He tried to kiss me. I turned my head and his lips landed on my cheek. I could not bring myself to kiss him. Not tonight. He frowned. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing," I said with a bright smile. "Just excited for Christmas." We drove to his parents' house. He was humming along to the Christmas carols on the radio. He was in a good mood. He was excited for his little surprise. He had no idea what was waiting for him. When we arrived, the house was full of lights and decorations. It looked festive and warm, but I felt a chill run down my spine. This was the battlefield. Eleanor greeted us at the door. She was wearing a green velvet dress. She looked like the queen of her castle. She hugged Mark tightly. She gave me a quick, cool hug. "Laura, you look festive," she said. It was not a compliment. "Thank you, Eleanor," I said. "You look very green." Her smile faltered for a second. Good, let her feel a little off balance. We went inside. The family was all there. I said hello to everyone. I hugged Linda. She gave me a concerned look. I gave her a small, reassuring nod. We sat down for dinner. The table was even more elaborate than at Thanksgiving. Candles were lit, the good china was out.
Hair. Big brown eyes. She was holding a bottle of wine. She was smiling. "Surprise!" she said. Mark laughed. "Come on in," he said. He led her into the dining room. Eleanor stood up. "Chloe, darling!" she exclaimed. "What a wonderful surprise! We haven't seen you in ages." She rushed over and gave Chloe a long, dramatic hug. The rest of the family looked confused. They did not know who she was. Robert stood up and shook her hand. He looked happy to see her. He was in on it, too. Of course he was. He always did whatever Eleanor wanted. Mark brought her over to the table. He was beaming. He looked so proud of himself. "Everyone," he said, "this is my old friend, Chloe. She was in town for the holidays, and Mom and I thought it would be a fun surprise to have her join us." He looked at me. He was waiting for my reaction. He was expecting me to be shocked, to be upset, to make a scene. He wanted me to be the insecure, dramatic wife he complained about in his messages. I did not give him what he wanted. I smiled, a big, warm, welcoming smile. I stood up. "Chloe," I said, my voice sweet and friendly. "It is so nice to finally meet you. I've heard so much about you." The smile on her face faltered. Mark looked confused. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. This was not the reaction they had planned for. "Please," I said, gesturing to the empty chair next to me, the chair they had conveniently left open. "Sit down. We have plenty of food." Chloe looked at Mark. He gave a slight nod. She sat down. The table was silent. Everyone was watching us. I turned to her. "So, you're in town for the holidays?" I asked, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. "Yes," she said, "just visiting my parents." "That's lovely," I said. "Mark, you didn't tell me Chloe was coming. We could have set a proper place for her." I looked at my husband, my eyes wide and innocent. He shifted uncomfortably. "It was a last-minute thing," he lied. "A surprise." "Well, I love surprises," I said, still smiling. "And this is a really good one. In fact, I have a surprise of my own." I reached into my ambush was not going according to plan. "You know," I began, my voice clear and steady. "Mark and I have been married for 3 years. And for 3 years, I felt like there's a part of him I could never quite reach, a part of his past that he held on to very tightly." I paused. I let the words hang in the air. I looked directly at Mark. His face was pale. "I always thought I was just being insecure," I continued. "Mark has told me I'm insecure. He's told me I'm dramatic. He's told me I overreact. And I believed him. For a long time, I thought the problem was me." I picked up the small gift. But then I started to find things. Little clues, like little breadcrumbs leading me down a dark path. I began to unwrap the gift. My movements were slow and deliberate. The first thing I found was this. I opened the box. Inside, resting on a bed of cotton, was the silver locket. I took it out and held it up for everyone to see. "This is Chloe's locket," I said, my voice ringing with a new strength. "Her prom locket, with her picture and Mark's picture inside. I found it in Mark's desk a few weeks ago. He's been keeping it all this time." Chloe gasped. She put a hand to her chest. She looked at Mark, her eyes wide with shock. He looked like he was going to be sick. "But a locket is just a memory, right?" I said, my voice hardening. "It's not proof of anything." So I kept looking, and I found his journal. A secret journal on his computer.
password protected with Chloe's name. Mark shot to his feet. "Laura, stop it," he hissed. "This is not the time or the place." "Oh, I think it is the perfect time and place," I said calmly. "You chose this audience, Mark, not me. You wanted a surprise. You wanted a show. Well, here it is." I looked at Eleanor. In his journal, Mark wrote about Thanksgiving dinner. He wrote about your lovely comment, Eleanor, about how he's always liked brunettes. He wrote that you said what he's been thinking for years, and he didn't just smirk like I thought. He smiled. He smiled, "Insecure wife," to you. Is it a lie that you have been encouraging him, telling him he deserves someone better? I pulled my phone out of my purse. "Because I have the messages," I said. "All of them. I have the screenshots. I have the proof. And since we're all here tonight for surprises, I thought it would be fun to share." I stood up. I held my phone. My final surprise of the evening, a dramatic reading. "Let's start with the messages where you planned tonight's little ambush." I cleared my throat. "My mom wants to see you," Mark writes to Chloe. "She was thinking of inviting you for Christmas dinner, as a surprise." And Chloe, you replied, "Oh, that would be so fun. But what about Laura? Won't that be awkward?" I looked up from my phone, my eyes locking with Mark's. And then my favorite part. "Don't worry about Laura," you wrote, Mark. "I'll handle her. It's time she learned that you're a part of my past, and she needs to be mature about it." I lowered the phone. The silence in the room was absolute. No one was eating. No one was breathing. Everyone was staring at Mark, Eleanor, and Chloe. The three of them were frozen, their faces a mixture of horror and disbelief. They had been caught, utterly and completely exposed. "So," I said, my voice now calm and level, "am I being mature enough for you, Mark? Is this the reaction you were hoping for?" He just stared at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. He had no words, no defense, no escape. I turned to Eleanor. "And you, Eleanor, you wanted a daughter so badly. You wanted Chloe in this family. Well, here she is. I hope you're happy. I hope you're proud of the man you raised. A man who lies to his wife, conspires behind her back, and then tries to publicly humiliate her with the help of his mommy." Eleanor's face was purple with rage. You little snake," she spat. "No," I said firmly. "I'm not a snake. I'm a wife who was pushed too far. I'm a woman who finally decided to stand up for herself. You thought I was weak. You thought I was stupid. You were wrong." I looked out of the dining room. I did not run. I did not cry. I walked with my head held high. I went to the front closet, got my coat, and left the house of horrors behind me. As I walked to my car, I heard shouting erupt from inside the house. The performance was over. The real drama had just begun. But I was no longer a part of it. I was free. The cold night air felt clean and fresh. It felt like the first breath of a new life. The drive home was a blur. I did not cry until I was safely inside my apartment, with the door locked and the chain on. Then I let it all out. I cried for the marriage I had lost. I cried for the man I thought I knew. I cried for the 3 years I had wasted trying to please people who would never accept me. But these were not tears of sadness. They were tears of release. I was washing it all away. An hour later, my phone started ringing. It was Mark. I ignored it. He called again and again. Then the text started. "Laura, please pick up. We need to talk. You don't understand. I love you." I read the last one and laughed. It was a bitter, hollow sound. Love. He did not know the meaning of the word. I blocked his number. Then a text came in from a number I did not recognize. It was Chloe. "I am so sorry," it read. "I had no idea. He told me you were having problems. He said you were drifting apart." I typed back a single reply. "You knew he was married. That's all you needed to know." I blocked her number too. Then Eleanor called. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message. It was not an apology. It was a tirade. She called me horrible names. She accused me of trying to ruin her family.
She said I was a vindictive, evil person. I listened to the message and I felt nothing. Her words had no power over me anymore. I deleted the message and blocked her number. The only person I wanted to talk to was Sarah. I called her. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice full of anticipation. "It was epic," I said, and I told her everything. She cheered and whooped on the other end of the line. "I am so proud of you," she said. "You are my hero. What are you going to do now?" "I'm going to pack a bag," I said. "I can't stay here. He'll be home soon." "Come to my place," she said immediately. Even now, caught red-handed, he was trying to lie his way out of it. He was blaming his mother. He was blaming his fantasy. He was taking no responsibility for his own actions. "Save it, Mark," I said. I pushed past him, dragging my suitcase behind me. He grabbed my arm. "Please, Laura," he said, his voice cracking. "Don't leave me." "I love you. I'll do anything. I'll cut them both off. My mom, Chloe, everyone. It will just be us." I looked at him. I looked at the man I had promised to love and cherish, and I felt nothing but pity. He was so weak, so easily manipulated, so willing to throw anyone under the bus to save himself. "The thing is, Mark," I said, my voice quiet, "I don't want it to be just us. I don't want you. I don't love you anymore. That person you were talking about in your journal, the insecure, dramatic woman, you killed her. You and your mother. You killed her and you let this new woman take her place. And this new woman doesn't need your approval. She doesn't need your love. She just needs you to get out of her way." I pulled my arm free. I walked to the door. "Where will you go?" he asked, his voice small. "That's no longer your concern," I said. I opened the door and walked out, closing it firmly behind me. I did not look back. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal meetings and paperwork. My lawyer was amazing. He filed for divorce immediately, citing adultery. He used the messages and the journal as evidence. Mark's lawyer tried to argue, but they had no defense. The proof was undeniable. Because of the evidence of marital misconduct, the judge awarded me a much larger share of our assets than I had expected. I got the apartment. I got most of our savings. Mark was ordered to pay my legal fees. It was a swift and decisive victory. Linda called me a few days after that Christmas dinner. She was horrified. "I had no idea it was that bad, Laura," she said. "I am so sorry." What my sister and my nephew did is unforgivable. The whole family is in an uproar. No one is speaking to Eleanor. She told me that after I left, a huge fight had broken out. The cousins and their new job, about the trip I was planning to take. I was happy, genuinely happy. For the first time in years, I felt light. I felt free. "You know," Sarah said, "I saw him the other day." "Oh?" I said. I was surprised at how little I cared. "How did he look?" "Miserable," she said with a grin. "He was with his mother. They were at the grocery store. They looked like they had the weight of the world on their shoulders. And the best part? He's dyed his hair." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "What color?" I asked. "Blonde," she said. "A really bad, cheap, brassy blonde. It looked ridiculous." We both howled with laughter. It was the perfect, pathetic ending to their story. He had lost the blonde he had, and now he was trying to become one. It was a desperate, sad attempt to get back what he had thrown away. I sold the apartment and moved to a new neighborhood. I started fresh. I made new friends. I focused on my career. I traveled. I learned who I was without him, without his mother's judgment, without the constant feeling of not being good enough. And I learned that I was more than good enough. I was strong. I was smart. I was capable. I was a warrior. I never saw Mark or Eleanor again. Linda would sometimes send me a Christmas card, with a little note about how she was doing. She never mentioned them. It was as if they had been erased from the family history. They had gotten what they wanted. They had each other, but they had lost everything else. Their family, their reputation, their self-respect. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that smirk,
that one tiny, cruel little expression that started it all. He thought it was a small thing, a joke, but it was the key that unlocked a Pandora's box of lies and betrayal. He thought he was so clever, hiding his secret world from me. But he forgot one thing. Secrets have a way of coming out, and the truth, once it is unleashed, can be a devastating weapon. They thought they could break me, but they only made me stronger. They wanted to write me out of their story. Instead, I became the author of theirs. And I gave them the ending they truly deserved. An ending where they were left